And thank you everybody for joining us. And thanks Kian, Jim and Chloe for coming on and getting everything going tonight, and the time that we spend off hours trying to keep everything moving along. So the agenda is pretty straightforward. This is the same agenda we used last year and we used in the fall, and we will likely use this fall. It's working for us. It keeps us on track. And it really is designed to give a high level view of everything going on. I'm redundantly say we've got way too many moving parts. And today I was joking with the fellow I was on the call with, and I said, I think we have 132 moving parts, just enough moving parts to equal the number of kilometers we have of trail. Some days I think it's a lot more because it's very busy. And I know the team that you see on screen handles probably about 60 to 70% of the information coming in. And then there's all kinds of other supporting characters and staff up and down the trail. So we're going to go through as much as we can from the G2G Inc. level, the registered charity, and the operator of multiple sections of trail from Goderich all the way through to I guess Millbank, Linwood area. We've got leases all the way up to there now. So we'll do the overview, we'll do the financials, we'll do the members aspect of it that Jim will take over. We'll talk about our structure a little bit, and we'll talk about Project Blue, which is the theme for our maintenance project for this summer.
And additionally, if you do have any questions throughout, please just put them in the chat and I'll be watching them, and we'll likely answer them after the meeting. Thanks,
Chloe. As I mentioned, we will be printing this afterwards. So when you're looking at this on the screen, there's some stuff that's in past tense, like we've already done it. You know, the meeting was held. It's because it'll be printed afterwards, and then you'll have the in booklet form with the audited financials attached, and also the resolutions that were circulated will be attached as well as part of the booklet. Our mission and ambition, we like to use the ambition word, I think, quite a bit. You'll see it coming back in our structural diagrams. And it's really a word to represent, ideas, and turning ideas into some physical form of either work or activity or project. And there's nothing more important to us than meeting our original vision statement, which is making the entire trailway a safe and accessible, fully inclusive and fully connected, a single, route from Guelph to Goderich, and eliminating really any of those crossings that we currently have to do detours around the bridges. We can't avoid crossings, but we can certainly eliminate the detours, basically keeping people on the trail, the formal rail bed, as much as possible. And that is by far the most important thing. Additionally, we do want to respect where our lands came from and what our lands represent to generations of people. The indigenous population, of course, giving us the ability to be able to be on the land, as well as our agricultural community, who produces so much of the food and resources that we consume every day. I'm not going to go into the details on some of these slides because we've done them several times. If you do need to go back and read them, you can absolutely go back and do that. I like to focus on the pictures. I was on the trail yesterday, and I'd say 200 meters of the trail looked just like this picture, with the exception of there's no real leaves laying in the ground. It wasn't fall, but it was so busy. That first beautiful sunny day, and I was on the trail outside of Elmira Wallenstein back towards to Guelph, and it was just crazy how many cyclists and how many dog walkers and families were out. It was just a lot of fun to see, and really appreciated that weather. I think everybody is pretty familiar with the history, and again, we'll leave this for people to read on their own, but the correlation on the history of the trail is this was a transportation corridor, and at the very least, we now have a very efficient active transportation corridor. And I say that at the very least because it represents so many more things than just active transportation. There's a little bit of history on how we got started, and there's a reference in here to a meeting that I had, and I pushed the agenda with Mike Curtis and Sarah Willen back in 2009, and basically at a Kissing Bridge Trailway sub-meeting for the Regional Waterloo Cycling Committees, and I was asked to be a business advisor on it back in then. Anyway, I just simply asked the question, like, why are we not connecting these two communities of Guelph and Goderich? There's a lot of great foundation work that was done and still represented today at the Medicine Tongue Bridge, and of course, the Kissing Bridge at that end, and now, of course, Perth Harvest Pathway and Lake Huron Route, just spectacular trail. Of course, we all know the biggest thing to overcome is the fact that we need those bigger bridges brought in. And there's still, we'll talk about it a little bit later, but they're still on the agenda. It's not that we forget about them. COVID kind of took us a little sideways, so we had to take a bit of a different approach to trying to find funding. But I think, and this is maybe not true, but I think it is true, I think there's a new appreciation for all these outdoor assets that are nice open spaces. So I think we may see some progress on top of some of the additional funding and conversations have been had with the region of Waterloo and County Wellington, our end, of course, Union County up the other end. There's a message from myself. I right in this get-go, if you read through this and you read through my last messages, you're going to see a lot of stuff I've pulled from the other messages. A little bit lazy, but also because it doesn't change. The one thing that I did change in there in a paragraph in the center was I took the word can out, because I had said at one point, the G2G Rail Trail experience can connect people and inspire new outdoor experiences. And I realized that was factually wrong, probably for the last 5 or 6 or 7 years, because it does connect people and it has inspired new outdoor experiences. I caught myself talking in future tense when it should have been past tense. So I really just want to keep sending that message out that this is a giant backyard for so many people who can utilize it. And it's your backyard. It's our users, our stakeholders. It's our members, our legacy members, our loyal lifetime members. It's also a huge asset for the communities that were smaller communities, which is what we really set out to do, is to build those bridges and connect those communities. And I think I'm proud to say, I believe we've achieved it. We have a lot on the go. We have a lot to do. There's no shortage of things on the list, but I do believe we've achieved that. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jim Sen and have him come in and say a few words and then take over for some of the meeting here.
Thanks, Doug. As you all know, 2020 was a really pivotal year for G2G with the massive project that was done there to resurface the trail and make the G2G rail trail experience truly an accessible experience for so many more people. So following on that, in 2021, it was really important for us to consolidate those gains. And I think we were able to do that. And that was thanks to a lot of work from a lot of volunteers. So, I just want to take this moment on behalf of the board of directors to thank everybody who helped us do that. As Doug mentioned, now we're going to move into the members meeting portion of our session today. This is a quick look at the agenda. Before we get into that, I want to do a few introductions. So first, I want to talk about our executive team for the organization. And that's made up of Doug Cerson, the executive director, Chloe Klopp, our executive coordinator, and the newest member of that team, Kian Doherty, who's our executive information officer. So those people make up the executive team. And if we look at the board of directors, we now have 6 people on the board of directors, and they're the 4 on the top row and the first 2 on the left on that second row. We also have 2 people who serve as advisors to the board. They're on the bottom right corner. I want to mention Paul Vandermolen, who you'll see at the very bottom right. Paul has moved off the board just recently into this advisory role, and I want to take this opportunity to thank him, for all his support as a board member and for his willingness to stay on and keep supporting G2G in an advisory role to the board. Here's another slide with additional listings of former board of directors members. The lower right-hand corner of this montage, you'll see Josh Barber. Josh was our treasurer, and he's now resigned from the board for some personal reasons. And I want to thank Josh, too, for all his hard work. Josh did a lot of work helping us organize financials and a ton of work on grant applications, which are very important as another source of funding for us. So thank you, Josh. Here's a few more past members of the organization. As Doug has mentioned many times, it takes a lot of hard work to keep things going behind the scenes and keep things organized. And the people represented here have played a very strong role in the past in helping us keep the organization going. So it's these folks and many, many volunteers who keep us functioning and keep the trail in good shape for our stakeholders and users. And I'll now turn it back over to Doug to talk a little bit about our 2021 financials.
Thanks, Jim. So I'm just going to walk through the highlights of the audited financials. We've done this obviously in the past, and we do review them. First and foremost, RLB accounting firm out of Guelph, Ontario, is a prolific accounting firm who deals primarily with charities. They have a very large not-for-profit division, very well known for the work they do. Certainly earn the dollars that they charge us, and they all in all very reasonable with the costing on it. But it isn't without purpose that we choose to be an audited charity. You don't necessarily have to be audited, but it certainly helps the process when you start to consider how widespread organization is, liabilities that we may have, and also the amount of money that we're pouring back into this land that we lease from the province. So when we review our financials, we review them a bit with a grain of salt that, you know, our financials are a point in time, and the RLB provides a oversight role to make sure that our books and records are being done correctly. So with that, this first statement is the cash flow statement. If you're not familiar with financials, I'll just kind of highlight them, and then you can certainly review them on your own. Basically, at this end of this period for 2021, which is December 31st, we ended the year with $151,000 in the collective bank accounts. You'll notice that at the end of 2020, we had $117,000. And that difference really isn't about all of a sudden more donations coming in. Certainly there's more money coming in order for us to have more money left over. In some cases, it's just a carryover of funds that are already earmarked to be spent on other projects. And that really is the case with 2021 numbers. We have monies that came in 2021 that are earmarked for expansion of our human resources and our paid staff. And we have projects that have carried over, such as having benches installed and having some trees planted. So about 65,000 of that dollars that, you know, we end the year with is really carry forward monies. So that 151 is really more like 85 or 90, just to put it in perspective. In either way case, you know, we're now, I forget how many years that we're in now. We're 2016, maybe 2015 incorporated. So I got those years wrong, don't I? It's not 2000.
I believe it was 2014.
2014. So maybe 2013 we got incorporated. So we've now got a good financial history, strong balance sheet, strong income statement as far as our regular donations go and regular activities go. We've been holding our own. So this is the profit and loss. Again, you'll notice that we had quite a bit of monies in 2020 come in and then automatically go out. And that was Representative Project Red that Jim has highlighted. 2021, we had Project Sage, which definitely attracted some funding in. A lot of the funding came from some real isolated events that were taking place and some broader donations coming in from campaigning. I think I can really go through this whole presentation and thank Chloe a tremendous amount for what she built up for us in 2020 was carried over in 21 at a time when we really couldn't do those face-to-face meetings. We couldn't do those in-person meetings. So a lot of this is a result of buckling down and using our donor management system and using the systems we had in place to get the message out, and then managing relationships by making sure we were getting back in touch with the donors in a timely manner and really asking for another donation. So at the end of the year, you know, we look pretty good, but as I said, some of that funding of the $154,000 was brought in for projects specifically for 2022 for this year. In general, these numbers, you know, they keep carrying through. That $150,000 that I referenced in our cash flow statement, $150 some odd thousand dollars of profits, $150,000 of cash on hand. We don't have a war chest, so to speak, that we're carrying forward. Generally speaking, we're spending the funds that come in. And when we get into some of the planning points of our financials and our projects, We're still lagging a bit, just so people are aware. However, this is a reflection of the point in time. And with the assets that we own, whether it's some trail equipment, some of the iron bridges that we've installed, we now sit with a $262,000 amount of assets on the books. In cash, we're still at the same number, roughly $151,000 of cash, as it says there. So we don't have any long-term savings or investments of any kind at this point. So that's, again, real quickly, that's just your statement of cash flows, profit and loss, balance sheet for December 31st, 2021, all audited by RLB. Just from a reporting in lieu of Josh now stepping down, he's not here, but from a treasurer's perspective, we are all up to date and compliant with CRA. Everything has been done for the year. HST's filed. You know, we're good for another 6 months or 30,000 kilometers.
Okay, thanks, Doug. So now we'll move to the item 2 here. We have 3 resolutions, which I'll show you in the following slides in a moment. These were distributed prior to the meeting, and we asked if there were any objections that people should notify us with those. And there have been no objections submitted, and assuming there are none like following this meeting today, then all these resolutions will be deemed to have been accepted. The first resolution is the election of the board of directors. Now you'll notice something new here. Last year we changed the bylaws such that now the members of the board are being elected for 2-year terms. It was previously 1 year. And the idea is that half of the board will be elected sort of 1 year, and then the other half in the intervening years. So the idea is that there's continuity because only half of your board will come up for re-election in any given year. So this is a transition year this year. So that's why you see 3 of our 6 board members who are now being elected for a 2-year term and 3 who are being elected for a 1-year term. Next year, there will just be directors being elected for 2-year terms, and that's the way it'll work every year thereafter. So this is the slate of candidates for the board. The next resolution is the appointment of RLB Chartered Professional Accountants as our auditor for the 2022 year end, and you'll recognize that name. It's the same firm that has been serving in that capacity for us in the past. And our third resolution is to accept the audited financial statements for the year end 2021. And you've seen a summary of those that Doug just presented. So those are the 3 resolutions. And as I mentioned, they will be deemed to have been accepted by the membership. Our next meeting of members is scheduled for this fall on October 17th. And then our next annual meeting will be roughly a year from now. And I think we'll be providing the date of that meeting prior to the close of today's meeting. It's on one of the later slides. So with that, that concludes the formal members meeting part of today's agenda. Thanks, Doug.
Great, thanks, Jim. And just for the record, it is 6:19, so we can close that off. And we'll move on to more of the update side. Again, highlighting some of the operational stands projects, ongoing our tunnel that we're raising funds for. We'll talk about that. We'll get to that at the end. So we're going to walk through again, reminding our stakeholders, both the people who are on the call today, of course, and the ones who watch this, afterwards, be it volunteers, people maybe you're trying to get interested into that, or just people in the general public. And I don't know, Chloe, you could probably tell me better, but I know I quite often reference how many times our map has been viewed and how many times our YouTube videos get viewed. But the map, I think I got right the other day, and I won that one with you, because I think it was like 2.5 million times that our G2G map has now been viewed, which means people are using it. And then when we post our updates out on YouTube, even though we might only have 20, 30, 50 people joining us on virtually, we end up with, I don't know,
About 500.
500 views in the end. So either one person's watched it 500 times or a couple hundred people have watched it a couple times, just referencing material or learning, whatever it might be. in either case, it's a formula that's working for us. And I think, again, a lot of thanks to Chloe and Kian now and the team and Jim, because it does help for people to be able to review the information. So with that, I do want to do the structural kind of review for folks. We have more systems than we have resources. And quite often with charities and not-for-profits, you are looking for, lots of volunteers to do different jobs. And in some cases, you don't have enough structure to be able to get things done. And one of the things that we've done in the background for many years now is in all those folks that Jim recognized, especially those past coordinators, and again, nobody who's put as much work into it as what Chloe has the last 2 years, we have polished up all of the structural systems. And we haven't changed anything though. In 2014, we introduced an organizational chart that had had 4 silos back then, and we added the 5th silo of capital funding about 2016-17. But the whole concept and the workflow hasn't really changed. And it's really easy kind of to remember. And I used that word ambition earlier. So if somebody's got an idea and they're like, wow, I think G2G could benefit from this. You just basically want to put it into the tackle box at the bottom of our organizational chart and then just say, okay, I need some help trying to figure out where to go with this idea. You contact Kian, myself, Jim, Chloe, if she's available, and just kind of shake it through and kind of go through the idea and then figure out which silo does this fit into. And if it's something completely new and brand new and outside the box and maybe too big to handle or too big to wrap our heads around, then comes up to me, and then I take it over to Jim and I say, hey, we got to really make a decision on this. It's a great idea, but I don't think we have the resources. Let's go to the board and see how we can resolve this. And inversely, the same thing happens when, the board has an idea and it comes back down. We got to figure, okay, well, who's going to do this idea? Who's going to actually do the work on this? And we'll cover that a little bit later. The other side of the blue side of that really is repeating what I said, and it's not in the best pictorial or infographic there, but basically there's a box for everything. There's a form, there's a box, there's a process. And as I said earlier in the financials, we don't have enough money to pay enough people to do all of the jobs for the projects that come to us. I think our project list, Kian, last I saw, I want to say 75 things on the to-do list that are just like things that need to be finished.
Yeah.
And as most people on this call already know, we've had, at most 1 person paid full time and now 1.5. And I don't think I've ever had anything more than that going back at all. I know that for sure. It was usually a half a person that I'd have as far as time goes, not half a person, but half of their time, part-time person. So there is a place for it. So if you think you've got a keyword, you just don't know where to take it to or which person to deal with it, certainly just lean on us. This slide here bugs out everybody's eyes. You can't read it. It's too small a print. But that's really the point of it. This is a snapshot of what comes out of our QuickBooks, our accounting software. And what it represents is all of those ambitions translated into a class for a project so we can track it. And what you might notice is a lot of blanks and a lot of zeros. And I'm not doing this to try and, get everybody to get their checkbooks out tonight and, write a check to us. I need lots of salespeople, and we need all kinds of raving fans and ambassadors for us to get donations in. It's just to remind folks that once a project starts, it's got a place in the QuickBooks. That means our auditor, our bookkeeper, myself, Kian, Chloe, likely Jim, Josh, when he was sitting in the oversight role for budgets, 6 or 7 people have to look at this every month. So when we do start a new ambition, or we have a committee, or we have a project, we really have to make sure that the first thing we do is get those funds coming in. And the way to do that is to ensure that every committee is structured as deeply as possible. And what we've done over the years is we've mimicked the success of the Kissing Bridge Trailway Advisory Board, which was created out of the region of Waterloo and County Wellington. And we took their diversified advisory board and said, okay, those are positions that make sense. And we said all of our committees, big or small, should have some form of structure to make sure that we have positions that do different aspects of things. So you can have a chair, but if that chair is doing all of the work, then there's not a committee, there's a 1-person committee. So you need to expand that. So we're using the Trail Advisory Committees, which is our most successful and most visible committees, I think, over the years, and they're out there on the ground doing work. But all of our committees, whether it's about events or a specific capital raise or a specific project or a specific goal in mind, need to have leadership. They need to have minimum 3 members. They need to have a data folder on our drive that's accessible by the team so that Kian or Chloe or whoever it is that needs to retrieve information isn't stuck. A lot of it has to do with security and continuity of data. We are a registered charity and a registered corporation, so we have obligations to meet. We need to have an approved budget. As I showed in the last screen, when you have a column of zeros, it still has to have oversight. It still has to have somebody touch it, but there's nothing to pay for the bills of all the time. And then, of course, that brings to the number 4 is there has to be somebody on the executive team that's part of that committee from an oversight role. And generally over the last 2 years, Chloe again has stepped up, and Kian now stepping up over the last month to get position to really help me out. And I think most people are aware, like I work full time and then some days. And I still break away during the day to do G2G stuff when I can. But there's no way I could handle, if I took the calls and emails that come in every day, I would not get 1 minute of my own work done any day. And that includes weekends. That's how much stuff comes in. So the only way that we've been able to survive has been by having the ability to be able to compensate a person like Chloe and now Kian to be able to come in and take that load off. Now, transitioning to our volunteer group, which we owe tremendous amounts of kudos to. We've got this established, trail advisory committees up and down the trail. The anchoring ends, of course, in Guelph, and at the other end in Goderich. I'll start with Goderich because it's one that says vacant on it. Well, it's only 4 kilometers. It's mostly the boardwalk that's already maintained by the service clubs of Goderich, and the town pays for, I believe, most of that, roadway and everything around there. The beach restaurant, of course, now the successful entity there for the last 4 or 5 years. It still needs some liaison and leadership. So we could still use somebody who's an advocate with the town of Goderich who can help out ensuring that we never lose our Minnesota Tongue Bridge, or we never have to justify why we think there should be a pedestrian bridge across the harbor road there, or maybe improve that little bit of trail behind the harbor, and that joins in, I don't know what to call that, but from the sidewalk and the road down in behind, it takes us back to the Minnesota Tongue Bridge. So we still need that person. And it's just too much of a geographical area for somebody who's from the Goderich area to be embedded to say, hey, you could be our Lake Huron route person. And of course, that's proven to be a 2-person job right now. We've got Jen Morris, who's stepped up on the maintenance side. Of course, there's always been Chris Lee and Paul and David up there, but now with Ruth McClellan coming aboard, we've got another leadership team rebuilding up our stakeholder group and our steward group up there, or sorry, our TAC group, which hopefully will attract in more volunteers. The idea of trying to manage, 20, 30, 40 kilometers of maintenance and events and fundraising, communications, advocacy, community relations, landholder relations, by 1 or 2 people is just, it's bonkers. You can't do it. So hopefully I didn't scare John Keffer off. He's just stepped up recently to take on Perth Harvest Pathway. Of course, Joe Phelan has left him a great structured area there with, I'm sure, all kinds of local supporters. A great way to measure our support in these areas, of course, is to go on to Facebook, and you see how many people are following our Facebook page as the Friends of Huron, the Friends of Perth Harvest Pathway. And I don't want to forget Kissing Bridge Trailway. Now, as most people, I always take this for the record, there's 2 tiers of Kissing Bridge Trailway. There's the Regional Waterloo lease with the advisory committee, and then there's our group with Rhiannon Davis, who's our liaison. Somebody be in there talking. Andy Heel, great in there. I used to sit on most of the meetings, and I got a few other people involved from the local area. So there's lots of voice in there. And this past year, the Kissing Bridge Trailway Advisory Board, which is part of the Regional Waterloo, has recognized formally G2G as having a seat at that table, as the advocacy group, as the greater, connector for the G2G rail trail experience. So that's a great thing. And then Lorenz down in the Guelph Trailway, there is no, there's no shortage of need at the Guelph end. We got a bubble of population. We got users coming out, literally the wazoo. There's cycling groups and clubs that come out of Guelph and make their way to Goderich. And we still can't get the town or the city of Guelph to pave the way, literally, to connect from downtown to Silver Creek there at Martin Road, Silver Creek. in a way that's safer than what we currently have. So when you're on our maps, you'll see the mapped out route that gets you to Guelph, but I know Lorenz has been emails even out today. I saw some emails. They're really pushing to get our signs up. We've had them there ready for them for over a year, maybe even a year and a half now, maybe 2 years since then, since we've had that project started. And we just need to put the signs up even. And it sounds easy, but it's not. There's a lot of, handshaking and meetings, maybe not handshaking COVID, but meetings and a lot of reminding, I guess is a good word when it comes to staff and politicians. Yeah, no problem. I'll help you with that. And then 6 months later, hey, by the way, I've sent you 8 emails. Oh yeah, I'll get on that. And then, some time goes by. So I'm not trying to be negative with it. It's just reality. We're dealing with 17 municipalities and 13 individual communities that all have their own unique needs and their own unique communities. So that brings me back to the silos again. And it's just a reminder that as I talk about all this and we talk about our TAC groups and all these places, we have 4 other silos in G2G who consistently have a need for volunteers, for leadership, whatever it might be. And those silos are events. Like, who can help us to stay on top of the events as far as whether or not we're going to support the event? Are we being asked to be a partner of the event? Are we being asked just to be a provider of services? We can run the donation page for them. Or is there some expectation that someone is created an event and then all of a sudden G2G has to put man hours in or human resource time in, which we don't have any budget for? So we do need that volunteer chair to help liaison, not just in one community. It'd be great, if it's one community, it's great, but we need somebody to liaison from end to end and stay on top of that. No difference in our operations, somebody who can volunteer to help Kian to stay in touch with all of the TAC groups. So it takes some pressure off the TAC chair. I have somebody whose specific job is to do the reporting up. And the same thing with the financials and budget oversight. As we said, Josh has moved on doing some personal travel and stuff. And he was working on systems which are in place now for budget oversight, but we still need those volunteers to help, bring the documents together and put that. And of course, capital funding. We do have our current focus on the Blythe restoration, the Blythe Tunnel Restoration Committee and that project, which I think is going to, be forefront of everything going forward, aside from what you'll hear from us about Project Blue shortly. So there's all kinds of there's all kinds of silos, there's all kinds of moving parts. So I want to just do a quick review of the difference between fulfillment, recognition, and wayfinding. And this has come up in conversation over the last couple of years because we have a G2G brand, which is the letters G2G. That's what we branded years ago. It wasn't rocket science, Guelph to Goderich. It made sense, Goderich to Guelph. And then we went and we started to use our wayfinding, which replicated wayfinding from the Kissing Bridge Trailway to make it as connected and as familiar as possible for our existing trail users without overwhelming our other end of the trail at the Medicine Tongue Goderich end. So for wayfinding, you'll still see those signs up. It's very expensive to go in and just replace them. So every time we change a brand or add a badge or add a look, we're not going to change our signs necessarily, but maybe one day we'll do the whole project. However, if you think about spending money on something like that, you've got to think about in terms of where does that money come from? So when donors give us money, if we're going to do changing signs that we just put up, probably not a great perception of the way we would spend our money, which we don't do. We're not changing those signs anytime soon, unless there's some free money that comes along and labor that comes with it. From a recognition perspective, you'll see G2G used in many different ways. And the 2 that we have that are our branding recognition right now from G2G Rail Trail Experience are the 2 in the center of the screen. So we have an end-to-end badge, which we're proud to announce is sitting here in stock and ready to go. We've got some social media campaigning we're going to do for those who want to be having their little badge attacked, back on their sash or on their vest or whatever they put it on. So you can complete your end-to-end and write in, but just watch the social media. You'll watch and follow the messages. And I'm guessing, Chloe, we're going to click on a form. I think we had a form for that or something.
Likely a donation page to be able to submit your donation to receive your badge.
Okay, so either way, that's recognition. Then fulfillment, which is great. We've got a new fulfillment program that's just getting off its feet. And there's going to be some hats, some water bottles, some clothing that's going to represent G2G under a license agreement to make sure that we don't have, a whole bunch of different logos and things out there, but there's a couple samples on the screen there so that we can, get things going. And we'll have more of that. Again, watch social media. We got so many different things going on. We can't spend a lot of time tonight talking about any specific one of them. I did reference several times how many moving parts, and you can see on here, this is the list of this is just our immediate directory. This is just the current chairs and executive and board of directors, people that have a G2G email address that we deal with every day and helps our team here to get information going. But at the end of the day, it's not a question of want. It's a question of need. It's not that we want volunteers. We absolutely need volunteers. And that sounds a little strange. Yes, we want them, but please make no mistake. We need volunteers to step up. We need twice as many people that we have right now. Our biggest problem is having the funds to pay people like Kian and Chloe to be able to train our new people and to give them the time they need. Probably the number one thing we hear from every new person that volunteers with us is that, oh, I still don't know how to do this. I need somebody to help me. And that's fine. That's the way it should be. But in order to do that, we need to expand our volunteers and we need to expand our funding for our staffing so we can keep training the volunteers to follow systems and utilize systems to save them time and to save, of course, G2G's resources. So please be our best salespeople, be out there talking about the tunnel, be out there talking about the need for volunteers, be out there talking about the need for people to donate regularly and get involved. And that's our transition to our event slide. And I'm going to stop talking because Chloe's excellent at talking.
Well, thank you, Doug. I mean, there's, like Doug said multiple times, there are so many moving parts going around, and as a trail with so much activity, events is something that since the pandemic, it's been challenging to host. Before my time, there were lots of activity on the trail, and we've been trying to really bring that back to life and make sure that we're staying on top of our annual events and hosting activities such as SOT, which is coming up, and our bike and hike and run months. But there's just tons to do. And with the number of users we have nowadays, coordinating that can be challenging. And again, with the activity and the recognition, there's lots of people and groups that want to host events on the trail and that are looking for our support to do as so. And really, again, it just comes down to resources. We need the assistance from you, our community, to step up and work as volunteers, not only to host these events, but to help us to facilitate them on our end so that we can take advantage of the multiple events that have been brought to our attention and whatnot. But having said that, there has been some exciting events recently, and there will be more to come. We have our G2G Cycling Club, which has been a huge success over the last year. David Werzik has really taken the reins, as well as Tim Ellis, and they have hosted this group pretty much and completely separate from G2G Rail Trail. Besides, we offer them some of our resources in order to get the word out there. But this is an ideal committee that has formed as an entity of G2G that we're looking to kind of replicate in other areas. So we can have a running group, we can have a walking, hiking group, and those things that that bring together our users, but are kind of run autonomously so that G2G doesn't always have to have their hands in the pot. So having said that, our lead put together a little commercial for the cycling club. So here's a video from David Werzik.
Oh, sorry, that's my bad. That was my bad. I want to say though, Chloe, and you made those points, and thanks, David, putting that together. Just a quick little, reminder: when you see a group form, they took control. We had some input, of course, on the first cycling jerseys, to making sure that the brand was represented, G2G was represented. But one of the things that I want to point out, and I was with my my own cycling group that I ride with, And most of us have a cycling jersey, and I was stopped and I was reading the sleeve of the jersey, which I was wearing on somebody else, of course. And I'd forgotten about, in that moment, I had forgotten it says 132 cyclists who care. And it really reminded me of, David's efforts and Tim's effort, and Tim Ellis, the amount of things he does in the community and different cycling events, it's phenomenal. But it reminded me to remind my friend, as I looked at his jersey, it was getting a little dirty and a little stained. I said, you can't get that jersey anymore. That's it. We've got 132 of those that went out. Our group, a cycling club that absorbed all of those, plus a few other folks who bought them. And those jerseys are now out and done. They'll never be made again. That's the original. And I know David and his team will be working on a new jersey so that you can replace it after you've soiled it completely and need to get another one. But I'm thinking about not wearing mine now so I can preserve it. I'm not sure. I'm a little torn. So we're going to move on. It's what do we got? About 6:41. About 20 minutes left, and we're going to walk through now the various projects and events. And of course, we'll talk a little bit about the main feature of the year, which is the Blythe Tunnel. So right off the get-go, every year you've noticed we've had a color. It kind of happened by accident. I'll be the first to admit Project Red was because the grant was called the Rural Economic Development Grant. And when I'm working on things, I'm working on a lot of different things through the day. So with Chloe working on things, I'm like, okay, let's just refer to that as Project Red because I need to call it something so I could have a conversation when I was busy. And that's how Project Red came to be. G2G Project Red was the name we put for the seasonal project in 2020. Of course, we've talked about it tremendously. It was a huge thing. In last summer, we came up with Project Sage, which was the safe, accessible G2G experience. So the SAGE, safe, accessible G2G experience. And that seemed to really work. So we got on this theme of colors. So I'm like backed into a corner. We had to come up with a color for this year for our grooming project and our maintenance program and our support that we give out to the TAC groups and to the steward groups. And it is called Project Blue. So G2G Project Blue was chosen, if you've read the screen in front of you, because it represents two main things that I feel are really important. One is that security, trust, loyalty, and one is the effect, the calm, relaxed, supportive. Certainly confidence and everything else comes into play, but we've now invested nearly $1 million into the trail. And that's not an accurate number because we don't have a way to account for all of the in-kind support and volunteer hours. We've never really had a calculator running for that. But from a pure dollars and exchange of services and resources, we've definitely crossed easily the $1 million mark. And that again doesn't include what was done before us with the Kissing Bridge Trailway, Medicine Tongue Bridge. So this corridor investment has been substantial. And there's nothing more important than to protect what we've invested into. And that comes from our stakeholders, it comes from our team. And of course, G2G Rail Trail Inc. as a registered charity. Our charitable purpose, and everybody's heard me say this, I'm sure at least once, unless it's your first call. Our charitable purpose is to create a public trailway for the use with the restrictions of the province gives us, and to keep it clear and safe. That's our basic charitable purpose. So we can do activities to raise money, to keep it open and keep it safe for everyone. And that, of course, means that we rely on our steward groups, we rely on our TAC groups, we rely on our trail maintenance volunteers to get out there and cut grass, clear trees, clear ditches, clear culverts, whatever it might take. But also, not everybody has all of the resources. And that was one of the things that I set out to do when I first, volunteered to get things going, was I wanted to use resources, personal resources and company resources to make sure that some funding was going to the underrepresented areas. And it's a great full circle story. I'm not going to get into it deeply here, but what started out as a really problematic area of Millbank area, population was small. It was in the middle of the section. It was really blocking us from getting to Perth County, is now becoming one of the strongest areas we have for human resources and their volunteers. So it's great to be able to say that. So Project Blue will start with step one, which will be the grooming, which will be the third week of May, Kian.
Yeah.
And so the third week of May and the fourth week of May will be, we would
Actually, no.
Sorry.
Second
week of May, we want our TAC groups to get out there and our steward groups to get out there, do all that, check it all over. The third week of May, we're going to rent the trail groomer, the Trail Pro 4 or 5, whatever it's at now. And we will start that at the Medicine Tongue Bridge, and that trail groomer will go down all the way back to Guelph, and it will go basically fairly quickly because it just goes through and recovers stone dust. We've got lots of good surfacing now from end to end. A couple areas, a little bit rougher, they'll take a little more time. But Kian will be leading that. He's putting messages out. He'll be looking for volunteers. He'll be looking for resources, everything. Donation of diesel fuel, donation of time, donation of operators, and people out there, of course, ahead of him. So that's step one. While that time is going on, we're also going to do the second part, which is we're going to tackle some of the encroachment and crossings. And it's not about policing. Please don't go away from this going, oh, G2G is going to crack down. That's not the point. The point is we're going to go out and identify it, have the conversation, certainly deal with some of the encroachment and damage that's been done through some landowners that have misunderstood where the property line is. We'll go with that. We'll certainly do that. But this is where Kian's role is going to come in. Kian's joined the team. He's going to come in and he's going to run this. So we've identified over the last 2 years all of the crossings, all of the encroachment areas, gathering SAT photos and GIS mapping and property mapping, so that we're not going out and trying to have an argument. We're just going out to simply say, well, here's the property, here's what's going on, and here's what we need to get to. And it's not about taking back all of the land that's being encroached. It's about working out an agreement to make sure that there's an understanding, because the only other alternative we have is to go back to the province, and then the province make a decision if they want to put lawyers on it and all of that stuff. So we're choosing to take the high road by doing a communication program while we're doing the maintenance. And that's 2-tier. One is to save money. One is to get the job done. It also allows Kian to get out in the field, get out of the office, get out there and meet people, and hopefully meet some volunteers, meet some of the landowners. And hey, if you got an opportunity, go out and say, thanks for doing all those hard work for those volunteers that are out there. So that's the encroachment project, which we'll move into. This is just really a reminder about the trail infrastructure that's on there. Again, this is a Chloe territory. She deals with, so many requests for kiosks or benches or memorial trees. We've got several different memorial gardens going up and down the trail now. It's been a huge success in Linwood, West Montrose. Elmira's got a huge number of trees. I think they funded their trail just by memorial trees. I encourage it in all the communities. You get an area, find an area, whether it's in the community or on the trail, to replant trees, maybe some of these areas that we can reclaim, and get the memorial, forest going. It does raise a tremendous amount of money. But trail infrastructure, it doesn't end with trees and benches. It also, as I mentioned earlier, it's the drainage, it's the parking areas, it's surface material that's washing away, or branches and trees that are coming down and creating maybe some growth that we don't need. So all of those on trail things, massive amount of work and everything that's going that. So we're going to be on top of that this year, of course. This one's a little different. This is a storage container project. We have a storage container in Catherine Street for those at this end of the trail, up in the east end of the trail. It's been up there for a while. I acquired it through another charity I do a lot of work with. So we kind of share it as a community storage bin for our charities, and we've just tucked it away on Catherine there. But we have an opportunity to add a mural to it. And I left this picture up from the last presentation just to remind people that if the funding is approved, we'll be adding a mural, recognizing our volunteers and recognizing our stakeholders that have made a difference for us and really helped us to move forward. It's portable. So the concept is we mural one side, then maybe we take it up to Blythe, or we make a Milverton, or up to Goderich, and we mural the other side and make it a showpiece, because the stuff that's stored in it is just G2G tools and things like that. So it could be moved around pretty easily for a fairly low expense. So that's a project that we're working on this year to get some recognition out there and have a little fun on the trail. And that ends, that ends the projects there. So we can talk a bit about capital projects. This map is not the best map, but it is a good segue to tell you, if you want to see what's going on in the trail, go to our live map. If you've never done it, one of the 2.5 million people who have clicked on it, and make sure you learn how to use those layers. We don't spend a lot of time making sure we put all of the things on the trail that can be indicated, but we have got a layer for those closest points for restaurants and accommodations and things like that, so people can do some planning on their trip planning. But more importantly, it also has a layer for kilometer markers, which kilometers are sponsored by who, a little bit of history, GIS, maybe not GIS photos in that layer, sorry, not that one. But it also has our infrastructure and our capital projects. So you're seeing the screenshot that we've used there, and that little kind of red symbol that looks like the avalanche symbol. That's just our Google symbol we chose to use because it basically means, yep, there's something here that we need to work on. That's our capital projects. So if you count them up, and this one in particular, at this point in time, we took that picture, looks like there is nine capital projects on the screen. We can't tackle them all at once, but we can tackle them one at a time. So going into 2022, as you should know from social media and the work that is being led by Chris Lee in the Lake Huron group up there, is the Blythe Tunnel Restoration Committee. I can't even tell you how important this particular milestone is for the trail. This goes back to the first years that we talked about building bridges, connecting communities back in 2009. And we were at the other end of the trail, and I was meeting people from Perth County, meeting people from Huron County. I was doing a bit of a sales circuit around to different functions. And I was up there, and those who don't know, my family's from Huron County. So my whole goal was to, ride the trail back home to the farm in Belgrave and to my hometown in Wingham. And I couldn't get there. And then even when I got up there, and then I thought, I'll just ride from Blythe to Goderich. And I came across this beast, and I thought, wow. And I literally said, I can't believe that, no one's gotten hurt on this crossing. Of course, you don't have to look too far to find out about the horrific accidents that Julie Sawchuk and her son have had not that far down the road from here. So it's always been, to me, it's always been a place that was so unfortunate that someone didn't have the foresight just to retain that tunnel. They collapsed it and filled it in. And now with the support of our folks up in Huron County, the support of RTO4, the support of Huron County, we are already about a third of the way to have the funding, the engineering, all of the pre-concept engineering and quoting has been done. There's some on-site engineering and some assessments need to be done, but it is a true representation of a private-public partnership, which is the magic words for getting government, in this case, local municipality, working with the citizens, working with an entity like G2G, whose job is not to, create economic development or tourism, but it is to advocate for that safety of our users. And this is not safe. Making our users go up a hill and cross a blind back and forth like that, as you can see in the upper diagram, is not safe. So we really hope that everybody does not forget about the needs that we have at all levels, certainly from operations all the way through to all of our silos. But help Chris, help the Lake Huron group, help that committee to first and foremost get as many people on that committee and volunteer to do a job, and everybody get out and ask for those donations, get those corporations to recognize exactly. If you need anything, just take this screenshot. That's all you really need to show people. And if you look around Ontario, or you look around North America, there's so many stories and accidents and just terrible things about the interaction with cyclists on roads, or even people who are hiking or pets running out in the roads. They're just everywhere. So please keep an eye on it. There is a link in this particular slide when we do send it out by video and also by paper and through email, not by paper, pardon me, by PDF. You can click on that YouTube, you can watch it. You can go to our YouTube channel and watch that as well. I think that address looks wrong. Chloe, is that correct?
That was just for the
VBA address. It's just a link. Yeah, sorry. So it's a link to, you have to go to the G2G YouTube address, which you can do right off our website. But if you click on that link, it'll go right there. So this is a video, kind of lays it out. There's also a bunch of videos, I understand, from Chris and the team that they're working on there for a bunch of awareness videos, and get behind this thing. $500,000 is a lot of money, but it'll go a long ways. It'll get that tunnel in. It'll start some seed money for other projects as far as our operations team and our human resource needs. It'll start to get some momentum going for those folks in Huron County with the Maitland River Bridge. And I do believe that just the public relations aspect of getting this tunnel in and showing the benefit of this will also help us to leverage the region of Waterloo and the County of Wellington to get the bridges in and over the Grand River and the Conestoga River. Again, two areas which I live there and I ride it all the time. Both those bridges, I go around them all the time, and it's just horrifying. I'm an avid cyclist, and I hate going down Highway 86 and Highway 85. It's just truck after truck brushing you. Anyhow, I won't dwell on that too long. Please get behind everybody. I do want to thank Kian, Chloe, Jim, and everybody else who helps make things happen. There's lots of people on the board who extend themselves. There's lots of volunteers who extend themselves. So thank you for joining us tonight. I appreciate that. And if we have a bit of time later, we'll try and do a bit of Q&A. So as Chloe said, put your questions into the chat. But with that, I will say goodbye and thank you all. So,
Thank you, Doug.
yes.
We do have one question from one of our stakeholders, Rachel, who was interested in what kind of fundraising we are prioritizing. Would that be one-time donations, monthly donations, or etc.?
Oh, Chloe froze on us.
No.
Oh,
Oh,
am
there.
I back?
No, there you go. Just the last word was whether prioritizing donations. So I think I'll pick up from where you were. I think the key thing, Rachel, is that it would be great for us to achieve a level of success where people were donating, regularly, monthly donations. We do encourage that. Our system does accept it. But the reality is that the scope of some of these fundraisings, projects, we need to do also means that we have to be asking for those larger donations too. We need those one-timers. We need those $25,000 or $50,000 donations, and we've had them a couple times in the past now. So it's a small number of people who are able to do that, but there's a much larger number of people who are very strong supporters of safe outdoor spaces, especially when you're talking about a 990-acre, green space corridor, all the aspects that go with this. So I don't think we prioritize as much as we like to communicate that we need everything, and our systems can take that. I will say though, for everybody to be a reminder, anytime it's a donation that's say bigger than the $20, $50, $100, $200, $300, if it gets over $1,000, they probably should connect with Keen or Chloe, and we'd just arrange for them to e-money transfer it, because it does save a lot in bank fees instead of using our donor engine or a credit card system, if possible. But certainly, if somebody wants to do a donation and do a donor directed use of funds letter, we can set that up. If it's an annual donation of a larger amount, we can set up a system for them for that as well.
Thanks, Doug. Well, as of right now, we don't have any other questions in the chat. So unless anyone else has any questions, I'll just reiterate what Doug said and thank you everyone for coming. And thank you, Doug, for everything that you do for the charity. I know it's your baby, but you put a lot into it. And I'm sure everyone on this call and beyond really respects and appreciates that. So it's been a pleasure working with you these last 2 years, Kian. It's great to start working with you as well, and Jim and our whole team and everyone on here. I recognize a lot of your names, and it's been great to get to know you, even though we live in this virtual world where everything's through email. It's pretty bizarre, but we appreciate everyone and all the support that we've received throughout the years to make the G2G what it is today and what it will be in the future for everyone who gets to enjoy it past us. So thank you.
Thank you, Chloe. That was great. And, we always appreciate the amount of work you put in, and Kian's terrified of trying to figure out how you did all of that work in the hours that you put in. So I think he's up to it, but he's terrified.
Up for the challenge. I can tell already.
It's all right. He did say challenge accepted, I think, at one point. So
yeah.
Yes.
All right, folks, have a good evening. Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.